Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. This is the weekly show on YouTube where we discuss all things music teaching. We dive into specific topics each week, but we also just chat with each other and connect as a community. And we share the latest goings on in the industry, things I've been reading, things we've been releasing, stuff like that. And we have an Ask Me Anything section at the end. So if you have a question, please do type it in. Just start with the word question and it can be about anything. I'll make sure to come back to all of those at the end. A new feature that's on the chat right now, if you're watching live, that I've been forgetting to mention, is that we now have a super chat or super sticker button. If you haven't done a ton of watching YouTube live, then you won't be familiar with this. It's basically a donate button. The reason I wanted to mention it to you is not to encourage you to donate money. This is a totally free show. It's just to say that if you do use that chat, now that we have it, we've reached the eligibility requirements for that, I've enabled it so that if you want to donate to the show, I'm going to pass that on to charity. It will be going to the Because I'm a Girl fund, which is a fund from Plan, which is an Irish charity, and the fund supports girls' education and empowering girls basically worldwide through all sorts of different efforts. So if you do want to use that button, know that it's going to a very good place, but this show is totally free, so no obligation to use the super chat button at all. So this week our special topic is improvisation, and as I said, it's improvise with me time. So we're going to be doing some active improvisation later to celebrate the release of our brand new course, which is called 346 Carousel. It's kind of a mysterious title. I'll explain the logic behind it when we get there, and we'll also try lots of improv together. So if you can be at a piano or with an instrument, that is definitely a great option for today so that you can really test these ideas out and play along with the backing tracks at home. That's what we're all about today. But before we get there, let's dive into some news. Okay, so in my personal update, we are in full-on prep mode for our concert, as I feel I've been saying for a while, but it's like rehearsing in every single lesson with every single student, which is really fun. Honestly, I've missed that preparation process because preparing for a video is still requires preparation, but not the same type. So we're going through all the, concert etiquette stuff again, and they're introducing their pieces this time, which is something I normally don't do, but I decided since it was a small group and since I want to avoid programs for, touching reasons, I could have put it on the screen, but I thought, let's keep it casual. Let's have them introduce their pieces themselves and they'll get that extra practice. And it's only for a few families, so they shouldn't feel too nervous about speaking in front of a crowd like that. So it's sort of testing out that format, which I know many of you will do anyway. And then, sitting down, thinking before they start, finishing each piece. Hands up anyone who that's their student's biggest problem. That's always the thing I have to be such a stickler about and keep insisting on them finishing pieces, by which I mean they take their hands off the piano and float them back into their lap, as I say in Breath of Five. They float them back into their lap and they actually finish the piece. Do we know what we're talking about here? So that's what I've been up to. But speaking of floating your hands back in your lap, let's get you warmed up with a few little movement actions of your own, okay? So I want you to stretch your right arm, your right hand up to the sky, and take a deep breath in. Do it with me right now. 1, 2, 3. Deep breath out. 1, 2, 3. Left arm. 1, 2, 3. Out. 1, 2, 3. Bring your hands together up and overhead. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And bring them down to your heart. Feel the feeling of your feet on the floor. And breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I hope that helped you feel centered and that you did it along with me. If you didn't, take a second to do it right now. We're going to go into our Solfa warm-up next. So for Solfa today, as those of you who were here last week know, my voice is a little bit shaky right now, so I'm actually not going to sing today because I think that messed us up last week because it just puts that much more strain on my voice. So I'm just going to do some silent Solfa. I hope that you'll try and sing along with it at home. The signs are on the side of the screen here if you're not familiar with them. So try to sing along. I'll do a simple sequence. Here we go. I hope you enjoyed singing along to that at home, even though I couldn't sing along with you. Now let's get into our rhythm warm-up. Alright, so today we're on Stamper number 5. If you're not familiar with this series, this is Rhythm Railroad from my side, the Vibrant Music Teaching membership. And this is the second level in our rhythm series, and we're on number 5 this week. We're going to be doing 2 a week, and today we have Stamper, 5, and 6. So different actions here. We've got a light blue one. That means tap one hand on your leg or patch with one hand. We've got the feet. Those are stamp your feet. We've got heart, which is hand on heart. And that's it. Sorry, there are 4 in each one in the next level. So I was expecting 4, but there's only 3. It's going to be easy. Okay, we're going to go straight to the faster tempo. Try to stay with us. This is in 4/4, so there's going to be 1 bar of count in, 4 beats before you start. Here we go. Nice. How did you do? Was that fun? Oops, almost went the wrong direction there. Was that fun? Did you enjoy it? We're going to go on to the next one here, and if you didn't do the last one with me, I hope that you'll try this one with me. Now, we're going to practice it first, because this is something I do with my students, so it's good for you guys to get experience of the way we're actually doing it in lessons as well. So let's practice it all together. What I do normally is for the first few or for the first one in each lesson, I'll often say the rhythm for them. So either counting or saying ta, kadai syllable language. Or I'll have a student say it. So often I'll do it the first time and then they say it and then maybe the next student. Or if it's just me and a student, I'll get the student to say all of them from there on out. Sorry, I was just checking if there was any questions there in the chat. No, I think we're good. I think it's just chat. So let's practice together. The yellow one is head. So we've got ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, ta, ti, 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 ta, two, ta, ti. I'm going the wrong way. Ti, ti, ta, ta, ti. Oh my gosh, I'm getting all mixed up today. Ti, ti, ta, ta. Ti, 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 ta, two, ta. I think, honestly, doing that patch in the air is messing me up a little bit, but I'm going to bear with it. Okay, we try it together? Let's do it. 2, 3, ready, set, go. I would need to practice that one. I'm totally messing up today. But I hope you got a giggle out of me making a complete fool of myself, because students do too. And I'm okay with that. As long as we're engaged with rhythm, I don't mind at all. Let's go into the next section. So as I mentioned, we're in full on prep mode over here, but that doesn't mean I'm not doing any vibrant music teaching stuff. I'm also putting together content for 2022 at this stage, and I have several of the courses done already, and I'm so excited about all of them. The first one coming up next year is about mentorship. So it's a very specific subset of teachers that are going to be interested in this. But if you've ever wanted to take on a student teacher or a mentee or a newer teacher of some description into your studio, that's going to be a course exactly for you, because that's what I do here. I bring in very new teachers or beginner teachers or teachers who are a bit unsure of themselves, and we work together. Yes, I definitely I feel undercoordinated today anyway. I mean, I always do, but extra today it seems. Anyway, so that's the first course of next year, and we've got other wonderful courses coming up. Later in the year, though, we're releasing a course called Metrics for Music Studios, and where the mentorship one is like very a specific subset of teachers, and I get that it won't be for everyone. The metrics course is for you. No matter who you are, no matter if you teach one student or 50,000, I think you should be tracking your metrics better than most of us do already. So we're going to be going through key numbers to keep track of, how to keep track of them, and I'm going to give you a template to do that, which already has, calculations built in. So I've been putting that together. It's in the beginning stages, but I'm really looking forward to getting that one into your hands next year, because I just think it's really needed. Let me know if you think it's needed in your studio, a way to keep better track of your numbers. I know many teachers struggle with this. Oh, Elizabeth, that's wonderful to hear. I think it doesn't happen enough. I think it should be one of the primary ways that teachers get their start. Like plumbers or carpenters, right? They do apprenticeships generally. That's how they start. They don't just learn in a college. And teaching is so hands-on. And I'm not saying you can't learn any of it in a college, but you have to do it to really get somewhere, to really digest this stuff. So I think that's where our industry should be headed, is towards a more and more mentorship. And that's how we're going to keep the momentum going into more and more modern teaching, don't you think? Lee, you're welcome. Always love a challenge. Always good to have one. Jana, do you only use Rhythm Railroad in lessons, or do the kids have access to it at home? I generally just do it in lessons. However, we do have a printed version and you can download the track. So it's definitely possible to do it at home. The way we've been opting for it in my studio is we do it as a rhythm warm-up. Or we do it as a rhythm warm-up in all buddy lessons, and then for solo lessons for our one-on-one students, we generally do it in the middle as a movement break. So we use it in virtually every lesson, including some adult students even, but not at home. But that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it, because we do have the printable version. Other news, let me see. Oh my gosh, really exciting news. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about everything today. You're going to think I'm putting it on, but I'm not. I'm really just in such an excited mood. I just think there's so much cool stuff coming up in 2022. I think it's going to be the best. Not that the rest of this year won't also be great, but next year I am hoping to launch a new podcast. The other one is not going anywhere, so if you love it, great. If you've never heard it, it's called the Vibrant Music Teaching Podcast, and I hope you'll listen in. But next year I'm launching a new one. I've wanted to do this for a while, and I've only just started putting it together. But what it's going to do is it's going to help all of those teachers, which is almost all teachers that I've met, who feel like an imposter in some way, who feel like they're the only one with this or that or the other problem. So what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to bring on one teacher each week for an interview. But the specific areas we're covering are maybe not like interviews you've heard before. What we're talking about is their journey into music teaching, their journey through music themselves, and lessons learned and failures along the way. The difference really is that this is normal teachers. I'm not going to be, maybe I occasionally will, bring on specific experts in some area. Maybe I'll occasionally bring them on to tell their teaching story, but this is not bringing on, Leela Viss to talk about teaching with chords, or Bradley Sowa should talk about jazz playing, or any other person. I just picked 2 people at random there. But it's not about that. It's about real, not that those teachers aren't real, normal, regular teachers. So that everyone listening in can, I hope, get some sense of, I'm normal. All of us are normal in all of our weirdness. Because that's the message I hear all the time is, oh, I'm not like the other teachers that you hear from because I don't have a degree, or because I started at 15, or because I started at 58, or because I don't know how to teach this or that, or I don't know how to run a business. Whatever the case may be, there is someone out there, and many, many people out there, with the exact same struggle as you. So that's what I want to show with this new podcast. It's going to be seasonal. So we're going to do just 10-week seasons, 2, maybe 3 times a year. So the first season I'm hoping to launch in early 2022, and I will keep you posted on that. But it's already shaping up to be just beautiful. I mean, if I do say so myself, and I think that's fair for me to do because it's not my story. All I'm trying to do is share all these different teachers' stories, and they're all so wonderful to listen to. And I can't wait. I can't wait for you to hear it too. So that's my news, is 2 fabulous things coming up next year. But right now we have other stuff going on. We had a new podcast out, which is called Which Piano Scales Should You Teach First? Which is one of those questions where you go, oh, does this really matter? It does, actually. And I think we need to question everything. And I think we need to think about these knock-on effects. Not so that we're constantly doubting ourselves, but so that we're constantly engaged in our craft and making things better and better. And this is actually something I have changed recently. I moved from always teaching C major first to teaching G flat major first. So if you want to hear about why and the pros and cons of various different places to start with scales, then listen to that podcast. Again, that's on the Vibrant Music Teaching podcast, which is not going anywhere. It will continue at least into next year, probably long after that, because I love putting it together. We also had a new video here on YouTube. It's Scales Month, so this was also about scales. It was about the chromatic scale, which, as one of our members said in one of the posts, he said it's one of those scales that you sort of can forget to teach it, or you don't fit it in because it's kind of on its own, right? It's its own thing. So it's really good to put that into your sequence and to have methods of teaching it. Very, very simple tips in that video, but if you haven't thought about it that way, or it came naturally to you, or you just learned it so long ago and your student is struggling with it, hopefully that will help. And then, oh yes, I wanted to mention an episode of a podcast called A Slight Change of Plans. Has anyone heard this show before? It's from Maya Shankar, and it's called A Slight Change of Plans. I won't give you her whole backstory or the whole backstory of the podcast, but the most recent episode was a bonus episode, and it featured Angela Duckworth, who is the Grit Lady. So I've only listened to half of the episode. I actually had to pause it to get ready for this show. So I'm really looking forward to listening to the rest of it later. But I just love any conversation with Angela. And actually, Maya's fantastic as well. So it's 2 of my favorite people, to be honest, on one show. And they're talking about grit. And they make lots of references already halfway through it to music and learning music, because it's just such a good example of grit, I think. Wouldn't we agree? Of when we need grit. Yeah, so I hope you'll check that out. Again, that's A Slight Change of Plans. I was about to say the podcast network, but I'm not sure about it. So just look up A Slight Change of Plans in your favorite podcast app and it should show up. All right, guys, it is time to do some improv. Before we do the actual improv, let's take a look at the new course. So this is the Vibrant Music Teaching Library. If you haven't seen it before, welcome. This is what it looks like when you're logged in, or at least this is one of the places you could be when you're logged in. This is the training library. You can also find the courses under courses. We did separate them out because members sometimes want to jump straight there, but they're in the training library, which includes all of our videos and podcasts and that kind of informational stuff. The printable library where all the games live, if you're wondering where they are, because these don't look like games, those are in the printables section. Now, the course, the new one, is 346 Carousel. This just came out today, but there's already 2 more things that are even newer than it. Oh my gosh, we release a lot of stuff. But remember, it's all about doing one thing at a time. Just do one thing. So maybe your one thing right now should be the 346 Carousel. We'll see. So the 346 Carousel is basically a follow-up to the Circle of Fifths Odyssey course. And so this is basically the minor version of that with a few key differences. If you have never done the Circle of Fifths Odyssey and your student that you're thinking about using this with does not know their major scales, that's the place to start, not this. Once they know their major scales and they're ready to start on minor, this is the approach I recommend. So if you haven't taken one of our courses before, they're always extremely actionable, and many of them are basically step-by-step lesson plans so that you can follow along with me the first time, the first few times, and then from there, you can branch off and do it your own way. It's not about hemming you in, it's about giving you a step-by-step approach so that you feel confident doing things in a certain way, and then you can make it your own if you want to. So the 346 thing comes from the patterns that they learn. Let me see if I can show you those quickly. So basically what students are doing here, and this is the step-by-step directions that you'll see, but this is where they're first starting in terms of the accompaniment pattern. So one person, you or the student, is improvising at any one time, and the other person is doing the accompaniment. So all of these accompaniments are designed to work at a student's level. We're assuming like an early intermediate level for someone learning all the minor scales. So the patterns, the first type is built on thirds, the second type on fourths, and the third type on sixths. That's where 346 comes around. And then it goes around and around because it's a carousel. Okay, so that is basically the structure of the 346 carousel. It's going week by week, 12 weeks, with these accompaniment patterns and suggested other activities to go along with it so that it can take up between 10 and 20 minutes of your lesson, depending on how much you want to do with it, or up to 30 minutes if you want to extend these activities and maybe take them into a composition project with your student each time. If you have a student that needs a break from reading or more traditional stuff, you could absolutely do that. But you could also take just the accompaniment activities or squeeze the other things down and make it like a 10-minute section of your lesson, or even 5 minutes if you just do the improv each week. So again, very flexible, but step by step along the way. All of our courses come with videos for each and every week. I separate them off like that so that you can jump to the one you want. Because if I just gave you general guidance in one big long video, it would be more efficient for me. But when you come back and you want to just remember what I said about something that happens in week 7, that's going to be really annoying. So I separate them off like that for that reason. So it's just a few minutes each week and you can jump in, listen to just what you need to know for this week, and then go away and do it. Okay? So now it's time to do it. You ready? We're going to do some improv together, or you're going to do some improv. I'm just going to turn on my terrible little keyboard by okay. Listen to me for a second. This keyboard is not a recommended instrument for your student. I realize it does not sound good. It's just my spare keyboard, okay? So don't ask me for the model. Don't ask me what it is. We don't want this keyboard for our students. But it is handy to have in here just when I need the right note for something. So we're going to improvise together. I'll show you. I'm going to demonstrate just like what a student might do so you can get a sense of it. And then I'm going to let you take it away. All right, so we're going to start with the A minor track. I'll go first. Let me make sure all our sound is on correctly. Yeah, it looks like it should be fine. You can let me know if anything's too quiet or too loud. I'll go first, A minor, and I'm just going to play, this is what I would tell the student, just play anything you want on the white keys, on the white keys. And in the lesson, I would generally be doing the accompaniment pattern while the student improvises. If you are teaching online, the backing tracks are an excellent option for you since you can't play in sync with your student. If you still want to play and have your student play along with you, what you need to do is have them mute themselves so that they can hear you the whole time. That's just a little side note for those of you teaching online. If you're in person, play the accompaniment patterns and do the swapping of roles. And at home, they can use these backing tracks. Okay, so here we go. Here's the A minor. Here's what it sounds like. Hopefully you could hear that okay. That's only meant to give you a sense of how simple this can be. Okay? So now I want you to try it. Just try and pretend you're a student. If you're someone that gets frozen when it comes to improv, just say, okay, I'm pretending to be a student. I'm doing an imitation of a student. So I don't have to sound amazing. I just have to sound like a new 7-year-old beginner. Okay? Will you give it a go? Give it a try, and when you're done, when the track stops, I don't want to see any chatter during it, okay? I'm just going to be jamming along silently. When you're done improvising, tell me how it went. Here we go. Get to your piano if you're not there already, or get your improvised percussion instruments ready. A minor still. Same track. How did you get on? Let me know. Yeah, it's very handy to have a spare keyboard. This is one that I use many times with an overhead camera when I had to do online lessons in my house and in-person lessons in my house and online lessons in my studio. Yes, I had to do that scenario. It just had to happen. This space, but what we're in right now, why I'm saying house and studio, this is like an office. It's a little garden building, and so it's separate from my house. But I have had a situation where I've had to make all those things work, and this keyboard came in very handy because I could at least show them the notes or show them where we are or demonstrate basic things. And it does have touch sensitivity, which is more than some toy keyboards. Oh, Karen, absolutely. Let me double check what this is called. I've forgotten the name. It's a Rode, but I just can't. Oh, Rode Video Mic something. Rode Video Mic Go or Pro or some other ending, but it's Rode Video Mic. That's what it is. So it is on a boom stand, and it's like there, just out of shot. I won't tap it and give you that annoying sound, but that's where it is. Hopefully it sounds decent. Lee, you did okay. Awesome. I'm sure you were an excellent imitation of a 7-year-old beginner student, just like I asked. Yes, exactly. You have my full permission to play. Are you ready to play again? We're going to do a different track this time. I won't demonstrate it first. I think you get the idea. This time it's going to be in D minor. This is also from our new course, which is the 3-4-6 Carousel, if members want to check it out later. Here it comes. Do you get a bit of a surprise on that one? So there's a whole mixture of different styles of tracks in this course, and there's 12, so there's one in each key. If you use these and you love them and you want more like this, then there are more in a similar vein coming on the way next year. But if you want the major versions, there is of course the Circle of Fifths Odyssey, and there are more fun improv tracks like the piano power booster tracks. There are tracks with that I put together for those of us doing online lessons last year and this year if you're still doing online lessons, but that's when I put them together. And I was going to say one more thing. Oh, Simple Sparks is another place to get started with improv. Yeah, Jana, I'm not specifying here, but that's a good question. I'm not specifying here because I know you all can come up with whichever minor scale you want to do. What I do, though, is I teach all the natural minors first. And I want them to know those really, really well before I say, hey, there's more types of minors. But they're easy now because you actually know the naturals. The place I feel I went wrong in my own education and with many students over the years was straight away, like natural minors were just like a side street on the way to, not even, they were just like a springboard that we were jumping off to land in harmonic minor. Like they were just bypassed completely. And it was just, hey, that's by the way, that's called a natural. So here's how you make it harmonic. Because I was doing exams and you just have to know harmonics for exams. Or actually, they give you a choice between melodic and harmonic, but everyone chooses harmonic. So, yeah, I prefer to stop on them because it makes the whole system make more sense, doesn't it? And yeah, it's great for them to know the harmonic, but that can come later once you really know the naturals. And by the same token, the naturals don't come into the question until they actually know the majors, properly know them, know what notes are in them, as well as just how to play them without thinking. Yeah? So that's my thoughts on that. But of course you can use whichever minor version you prefer. All right, let's get into our book club. So you can keep your questions coming. If you have any questions, just type the word question at the start. Right now, though, I wanted to share my thoughts about our new book. So it's called The Happiest Piano Teacher in Town. And we had a delayed start on this one, so apologies if some of you had already started reading it and then we couldn't get started on it for a couple of weeks. We're starting now. I've got the hard copy and I was able to read it today. So I shared my thoughts in the community for members who want to read through that. But I would love to hear yours here, and I'll share a little bit about what I thought. First of all, I loved the premise of the book. I like the idea of it, that it is about appreciating the job that we have and putting so much into teaching so that we can be happy because we're getting so much back out of it. That's what I'm taking from the first 4 chapters. That's where I think she's going with this. I did like some other parts of it. So I liked that it was really easy to read. If you've read along, I'm sure you'll agree with that, with lots of stories. In the first chapter, she has a moment where she says, her aunt says to her, if you're going to be a musician, I hope you like teaching because musicians teach. And she seemed to mean it in the context of her aunt just giving helpful advice. And she takes that and says, she was right. I did love teaching. But to me, the aunt, when I first read it, the aunt sounded really snarky to me. Maybe that was just me. But that's something I picked up on, that I was like, oh. As in, you're never going to be a real musician. I don't know. I had a lot of things going on in my head with that statement, but maybe that was just me. As I said, I love all the different examples and stories. I had one little thing that really made me stop. Like that doesn't matter. That was just my perception of the way it came across. But I just thought it was interesting. It wasn't a criticism. The one thing that made me really stop, though, was at the end of chapter 1, she talks about making your own luck, which is something that I a phrase that I'm just not a fan of, because I believe that, and I don't want this to come across as preachy, but anytime anyone talks about like pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, making their own luck, so some people genuinely have done that from a horrible situation, but she was kind of trying to say you make your own luck, like other people wouldn't have taken what I have and rolled with it. And I think, yes, that's true, but 95% of what you have is just pure luck. So that kind of statement always kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. But other than that, I thought it was a really pleasant read. In chapters 2 and 3, I'm kind of lumping them together. I thought they could have been one chapter. She talks about positive perspective, which is so important for teaching. But the real message behind all her stories for me was empathy. Did anyone else get that? I'd be really interested to hear if you thought that was the actual thing that was happening in all those stories. They all came across to me as being about empathy. You can have a positive perspective because you bothered to step into that person's shoes and think about where their motivations were coming from and what it was like for them. So if you haven't read it, that won't make a ton of sense. But if you do, go ahead and read that. Keep it in mind and see if you disagree with me. Maybe you'll think, no, they're perfect examples of positive perspective. But to me, they said, be more empathic. Put yourself in other people's shoes. Think about what they're going through, where they're coming from in all of those examples. And therefore, they ended up being happier people, right? So it was a different point to me, but both are great qualities to have as a teacher. I do agree with that. And then in chapter 4, she starts to get into this idea of a blueprint. So I'm interested to see where she goes with this. It seems like it's going to be what I would call a curriculum. But I don't know where she's going with it. I hope she expands on it more. That's my hope for the future chapters. So I'm looking forward to reading those and seeing what comes up. Yeah, Lee, that's basically what she was saying in the book. And that's what I disagree with, respectfully, to whatever your dad said or your dad's opinions or anyone else's. There is a such thing as luck, or maybe you want to call it privilege, and luck seems like something else to you, but to me they're very intertwined. So I'm extremely fortunate and lucky to be in the circumstances that I am. I mean, it must be some infinitesimal percentage that is as privileged as I am. So anytime someone brings up luck or hard work, I'm like, yeah, I work hard, but most people I know work extremely hard, and most people in the world work hard, and they don't necessarily have the circumstances that mean that they can get to where I am. I think that's a bit naive or something. I don't know. Not that I'm calling you naive. I'm just trying to think that out. I don't know why it bothers me so much. Angie, yes, empathy allows us not to roll our eyes and criticize and alienate. Rather, we can understand they are struggling with many things, of which piano is only one thing. Yes, and I feel it alleviates any need for what people call patience. Something people always used to say to me is, oh, you're so patient. Oh my God, you have the patience of a saint. And I'm going to say, no, I'm not exercising any patience at all. This doesn't require, like, I have felt that feeling of having to be patient with something, but I'm not using that right now. It doesn't take any patience for me to sit here and help a student learn because I'm in it with them. You know, I'm fully involved. Yeah, I think she did mean that, but Doreen took it as being a much more positive thing, I thought. Maybe I need to reread it though, as well. Okay, nice. Interested to see where we go with the book. I hope you continue to enjoy reading it as I have been. We're reading the next 4 chapters this week. So if you want to catch up with us, get the book and read the first 8 chapters. They're very short chapters. Like, I'm not a fast reader and it took me very little time to read through those first 4. So it's a quick catch up if you want to join us. It's called The Happiest Piano Teacher in Town by Doreen Hall. And I would love it if you shared your thoughts in the community as well if you're a member. Okay, so I think I caught most of the questions as we went through. There's one just there that I saw from Roche. Let me know. Black and white key majors before minors. Yes, all 12 majors before I touch minors. That's something I believe quite strongly in. And as I said earlier in the show, I now start at G flat major anyway. So we go around the circle of fifths from G flat major, get all the way to B. And they really reinforce those a lot and do lots of games and different drills on those and play with fun different backing tracks. And then they're ready to meet the minors. And it is so easy when you really know your majors. And it is so hard when you don't, because it makes you get muddled with all your majors as well. Because it's just too many patterns. If they're all separate patterns, it's just too hard. Anyway, I think I got all the questions for today. If you have any follow-ups, leave them in the comments. It's been a delight to hang out with you once again, and I hope you have a fabulous week. Bye for now, guys.